work session. The 5:30 work session is on Walton County's Parks and Recreation. There's a couple commissioners have been asking questions, and we're going to also during these work sessions, both of them tonight, accept public comments too. So, John, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Great. You have something you want to say first?
So actually, this work session comes up because I'm at the fields a lot with two girls that don't play the same sport or on the same team, so we're going in lots of different directions. And several things have come up, and also there's always drama on Facebook. So I just feel like it's an opportunity for us to have a conversation and focus on resolutions and improvements, not, why did we have this problem? Less of that and more of what's the resolution to this problem. So I just am excited to have the conversation and see what we can do to make our Parks and Rec department better. It's the flowers of your neighborhood. It's the most, it's what people see from outside our county coming in. They come and see our Parks and Rec, and it's, a good opportunity for the constituents of Walton County to have good experiences with the county. So
Good. Well, I'll start off, and Jody, if you'll come on up, we're going to kind of tag team this. We do have somewhat of a presentation, then we'll move over into the question and answer session and the public comment section. The first part is just some general overview, recreation programs as well as the park areas. The total revenue is $1,314,600, and then if you go through the expenditures for recreation programs and park areas, now this also includes staffing and different things like that, and it rounds out at $6,146,995. We have 12 parks: Bold Springs, Criswell, Felker, Good Hope, Gratis, McGarity, Meridian, Rabbit Farms, South Walton, The Grove, West Walton, and Ayers. Felker, Meridian, Nowell, South Walton, and The Grove have the community centers where we have the gyms and the workout facilities, and then we have the splash pad, the amphitheater, and the ag center also down at Criswell Park. Our overall organizational chart is broken down from the director to the assistant director and then divided into athletics, leisure services, and parks maintenance division. Some of the things that we've recently upgraded and added just from some of the feedback is on the website now is a list of all rules and regulations for all sports that are being played. This is important because when there's questions or conflicts, everybody's on Google now and they pull up a different set of rules. So this is a way for everybody to be pointed for the rules in the same direction. And on the right-hand side, this is our Parks and Recreation subscription area where you can click on that link and then you'll be subscribed and get updates. And Brett has been sending out updates lately on an increased pace on that. Jody, I'll turn it over to you for this as part of the a little bit of a discussion about how we deal with uniform quotes.
Yeah, basically what you have in front of you is just the prices that we got just for our fall sports, just for cloth, not equipment and things like that. But how we get to, I guess, the timing of how we, the timing of when we order uniforms, we basically go to where we have to end our seasons and then back it up to when the season ends to when we do our evaluations and drafts, and to see when we have to begin. We go 4 weeks from that is when we do our uniform orders. And for the most part, uniforms in 4 weeks. It should be plenty of time to get uniforms in, but sometimes you get some hiccups. In the last 2 years, we've nearly had a hiccup in the spring, had a little hiccup here in the fall with getting some of the uniforms back. But this is how we generally get our uniforms in. We look at the vendors. We would like to stay as local as possible with our vendors. Obviously, that's not really there's just not that many in this county. We pretty much have Scott Tees is bids on most of our stuff, which is local and out of Loganville. And then the other two are out of DeKalb County that bid on our cloth programs. And these are the prices that they gave us and how we select who. And when the prices are close, We take the cloth itself, they give us samples of it, and we just look at them to see which one is the best, if they're identical or very similar in price. Any other questions on?
Yeah, any questions on the uniforms or any recommendations or suggestions? We're going, if you'll hang on just a second, we're going to come around with questions, but we'll get to that in just 1 second. But we'll also be bringing around a microphone for you.
Okay.
So let's get through this real quick, and then we'll throw it into the question and answer session. Park updates.
Let me get to that page because I had it on here.
I got it pulled up top.
I can't see that.
Okay.
Park updates, me and John were talking about, what would we do in some of these parks that we have, and sometimes that would be with unlimited money. We know we don't have unlimited money, and don't nearly expect that. But when we ever build a new park, sometimes that becomes the new standard of what everybody looks at. And right now, that the Grove is a very high standard to live up to. A lot of people go into that and they expect the facilities to all look like that. And obviously, some of our parks are 35 years old. Some of them are 25 years old. And then the community center at South Walton's probably now, 5 years old. So what we've got on here on the paper is basically a standard that we've set for Walnut Grove. If we want turf infields, if we want all brand-new bathrooms with brand-new stainless steel partitions and new sinks, things like that, that would be the standard for that. Do I expect that we're going to be able to do all these parks and all these projects? No, it's not practical. But these are the items that it would take to do that. Do we expect our staff to keep some of our older parks up? Absolutely. We expect them to go in and scrub the walls. We expect them to scrub the floors. We expect them to scrub the 130 toilets that we do every day, twice a day, which is about the number of toilets that we have in our outdoor parks. On top of that, those same guys are the ones that are cutting the grass, they're lining the fields, they're picking up the trash. It's a big job for 1 or 2 guys at each one of these facilities at the regional park. So, I don't need to go through each individual park. Y'all can see that on there. It's just one of those things we probably ought to know that this is what it's going to cost if we want to go and build a second phase or build a new park somewhere else, or if we want to throw money into some of the existing parks that we have to get those upgraded. Some of those parks, the wear and tear on the turf is very difficult to maintain. Some places are harder than others. Some places have very hard soil. We have a lot of erosion in some of the spots. And then some of the fields like at Felker Park, where we went in and tilled sand originally for the football fields. The Booster Club came in and did that for us. We sodded them. We really don't have that big of issues on some of those fields, but some of the back fields where it was all graded and cut, it's very difficult. When kids are out there 7 days a week playing on those facilities, you're going to have bare spots. Same things happen out at West Walton Park, where we're playing our games 3 to 4 days a week. But when we're not playing games, I promise you somebody's on those fields. And that does just as much damage to those fields as well. So turf takes a little more beating than grass. So again, some of the standards I put into this quote is to turf infields only, not doing outfields, because that would really be more expensive.
Yeah, and I think it's important to note that if you look at like Criswell or West Walton, those fields, those are some of the original ball fields and everything of the county. So if we get into our prioritization of where we're going to pick and choose and maybe focus on this park or the others, maybe we can have a discussion later too about prioritization and which ones you feel like we should focus on. We are working on, we do utilize both general fund money. We have access to SPLOST funds that we can utilize for parks. And one of the things that I'm working with, and I have reached out to the Department of Community Affairs, and that's to get some interpretation on some of the potential projects that would be enhancements in these parks. And that would be, I'll free up utilizing impact fee money. So those enhancements based on population growth are what results in the impact fees, and we're really working to be able to free up access to those. So we would have a total of 3 different sources to try to start tackling some of the improvements throughout the different parks.
And some of these projects on here, they'll make bigger impacts than others. We were talking about lights. Well, when you go out to a ball field and you see you have lights, that's all that most of the spectators expect, is to be able to see the ball when they go out there, be able to see when they're out there and be safe. But putting LED lights up, it is an upgrade, and it's a huge upgrade to the facility. It's a huge cost. It's not necessarily a huge upgrade to the facility because we already have lights at most of our facilities. There is some cost savings in doing those things as well. There's cost savings in adding artificial turf where you don't have to water, you don't have to put pesticides down, you don't have to worry about a lot of things when you do that. So there are some savings when you do some of these upgrades as well.
Yeah. So we'll let this video go as we start out, but we'll kind of turn over and move over into a question and answer session. We'll start out, and I think we'll kind of bat this back and forth. If there's some question, we'll start out with a question from the commission, then I'll have Ben enter into the public and offer up the mic for questions from there, and we'll just kind of bounce back and forth as we have the discussion about Parks and Rec.
So since we're talking about facilities and enhancements, I'm actually more concerned with deferred maintenance. And so I'm going to kind of get into the administrative just questions for a minute. Do we have a maintenance schedule for upkeeping the parks? Like, do we have a regular maintenance? We need to repaint the buildings, the press boxes, all those things on a certain schedule, check electrical, those kinds of things. Do we have a schedule for regular maintenance?
Some of those things are split dutied between departments. Hank's here as well, so he does a lot of the facility part of that, and so he has his own maintenance schedule when it comes to the actual facilities, heating and air conditions, stuff like that. We take care of the grounds for the most part, and if there needs to be a light bulb change, stuff like that, yeah, our guys can do that. But mostly, if there's something larger than that, we turn in work orders to the facilities department, and they come in and do that.
How frequently are we walking the parks to kind of look for things that need to be done so you know what to turn in for work orders?
Well, our maintenance guys they're assigned to the regional parks. So
Okay.
we have certain guys that are assigned to those particular parks, and they're there daily walking around. And then we have supervisors that are over those guys that are also going behind those guys to make sure that they're doing the right things. So it's a constant. With at least some of the parks have 1 employee, some have 2, depending on what's going on that particular day or week.
Okay. So that's, I've been in the restrooms at, I think, all the parks. I'm trying to think for a minute. All the parks that have restrooms, because some of the smaller parks don't.
Correct. Good Hope's the only one that has it at the passive.
But, all of the parks have, except for the Grove, have, some deferred maintenance that hasn't been taken care of. And so I would love to see, I love the wish list, but I would love to see what deferred maintenance tasks we need to do and kind of what the cost would be to just bring things back up to the paint on the walls isn't stained, terribly stained. There's not, electrical cords that need to be addressed, to just kind of bring it up to not the Grove standard, but just bring it up to a nice maintained standard. Because I think, some of the things could definitely use some love.
And I'm not disagreeing with you whatsoever. We've had some classes on that. We actually brought the facilities department down, their cleaning crews down, and went through a lot of that. What chemicals to use, what they shouldn't be crossing over, the standard in which they would like to see the government building kept up is what we would like our standard kept up. Just same way we keep up with our community centers, we'd like to see them at that level. And just to be honest, some of these guys just aren't spending the time because their time is of the essence. I mean, they have 8 hours a day to come in and do those other tasks. Of course, their task number 1 is always bathrooms, and that's what they're supposed to go in every morning and do bathrooms. If they get used during the day, then they come back that evening before they leave. They check them again to make sure that somebody hadn't destroyed them, because all of our bathrooms are unlocked except for Felker. We just get a lot of vandalism there, so all the bathrooms are unlocked. They go check them again. Athletics is told periodically. Sometimes they don't get to it because they're out running around and whatnot, and are told. But for the most part, when there's something that happens in those bathrooms, they usually go to the concession stand. The concession stand finds the staff person, and then they go relieve that problem if a toilet stopped up or whatnot. But we are going to make strides in some of the. One of the examples would be they go in, they open the door, they put the trash can there, they clean the bathroom, mop the floors, and then they walk out and they forget to even look behind the door. You know, that's some of the standards that we've gone over to say, listen, this has got to be done. You've got to sweep the cobwebs out of the corners of the walls. You've got to get the bugs out of the light fixtures. So something we are going to strive to do, to improve on.
Kind of shifting gears a little bit, what kind of training do the guys that for turf management? I mean, are we doing continuing ed so that we know how to properly take care of the fields?
Well, we contract out all of the
Chemical
chemicals.
work?
Yeah, we do. We contract that out. We actually just replaced our chemical person that was doing it, and we split it up. When we built the Grove, we had another company come in, gave us a lower price for the Grove. To me, they did a better job for the last 3 or 4 months that the Grove's been open, so we've decided to move on with that company. The rest of the parks, we're hoping that it will get that same response. He's gone and done his initial view of the parks and just says, listen, you're getting a lot of wear and tear on some of these fields, and you're going to have more weeds when you have weaker turf. So they are trained on the chemicals they use, which is probably the strongest thing they use is Roundup on fence lines.
But just general turf care, like top dressing and reseeding periodically and just how to maintain?
More of the managers that would be more of a manager
Okay.
thing that they would do. We only have one top dresser, and buying sand is extremely expensive. As far as aerating, we do this thing called a turf planer that we go out and do again, during the off season. You can't really do a whole lot during the season. We only have 2 off seasons, and one of them's the winter, which is not the time to do that. So really the only month that we have is around July. So that's when we have to consolidate and do that. We haven't top dressed our fields. It would probably be in the $200,000 range if we went in top dressed most of those fields. So I can't say that it hasn't been done probably in 2 or 3 years at least. We've turf planed, we've aerated, which are the 2 things we can do with man hours, not with product. As far as the infields that they take care of, they are trained on that, how to properly drag infields, how to line infields, how to paint infields, so they are trained on those things.
And do we have along those lines, I feel like I'm jumping around, so forgive me.
It's okay.
Just questions pop up. Along those same lines of like schedule maintenance and training and things, do you have for each season, do we have a timeline of like when things need to be done? And maybe do we need to review that timeline?
Are you
'Cause
saying,
some of the things aren't getting done by the time the games start.
are you talking about like for soccer fields not getting painted?
Soccer fields, baseball fields. I mean, softball fields really need to be striped for practice because the lines on, and even I guess for T-ball too, teaching kids when the circle on the softball field is such a huge part of a softball player, of a game for a kid, having that on the field for practice is really important,
Yeah.
but especially for games. And I know that there have been some fields that haven't been striped. The infield hasn't been
We
striped for
generally
the
haven't
games.
done any of the pregame, the game lining of, where the chalk goes out. We try to get to the soccer fields at least a week to 2 weeks early because it takes about 2 weeks to do it. And then you have to do them we paint every Wednesday out at Felker for any of the soccer and the football fields. That gets done, once a week. And generally, for baseball, we usually do not chalk. We drag, but we usually do not chalk. We can start doing that at least a week or so ahead of time.
Have you tried to teach a girl how to play softball and how important a circle is when there's not a circle
taught
there and you're
softball.
trying to drag it with your foot? It's really dusty.
Yeah. Oh, it's very dusty. And we don't have a problem doing that. We probably wouldn't want to do it the entire season, But we could probably do it periodically, is go out at least a couple weeks ahead of time and put the foul lines in the circle, not necessarily the batter's box. That chalk does build up, and then it causes even more severe dust on the field, so.
We
That-
just
that's not
had
a
some
problem.
games, like the opening day, the lines weren't on the infield of the baseball fields.
They were not?
Uh-uh.
Okay, I'm not aware of that, but I would have thought they would have been out there for a game. What field and
Recall.
what, just to, so I can,
I believe it was Criswell, and it was, I don't know, it's in that cluster where they play T-ball and softball.
2, 3,
So
or
like-
4?
Yeah,
So field 3?
I think it was field 3.
Yeah, field 3 is the one in the middle of the two.
Yeah, I think it's, I
I
mean,
will
it
find
was
out. That's,
across from field 4.
they get a list of where the games are each day, so they should be lining those fields, you know, they get from the athletic department to them, and then they go out and line the fields.
Again, this is, resolutions to
Yeah.
keep that from happening again, so maybe we
I-
need to
yeah,
review the
that's-
schedule or
that's-
whatever, but.
I can't believe I wouldn't have heard that,
Yeah.
because that would have been, that would have been
Well,
ground for writing.
I'm happy to just start letting your phone blow up.
I answer the phone to a lot of people every day, I promise,
Um,
from morning to night.
So that was, so those questions. I have, also been talking to different people, and we have friends that play it, and feel free to chime in if anybody else wants to talk, y'all can tell me to shut up. We have friends that play at different complexes all over, and it seems that there is a different experience depending on which park you're playing out of. It's very inconsistent.
Yeah.
Why is that? I mean, we're one county, I
Anybody-
feel like it should
and-
be.
And I've said this before, that we rely so heavily on volunteers. Volunteers are they're everything to our department, because they're the ones that run the department. So we can have two people that sign up in the same league and have two totally different experiences. And it's not anything that we have done differently for that team. It's just maybe they got on a team with a friend. Maybe they got on a team with a coach that communicates better. Maybe they won games and maybe they lost games. They can have two different experiences, but it's not really anything that the recreation department does to enhance or make that team have a bad experience. That happens a lot. I mean, not two people are going to have the same experience at the recreation department. We hope they all, and that's what we strive for in our draft processes. When we do our evaluations and our draft procedures, we would love for everybody to at least lose a game and everybody at least win a game, and that's how I kind of look to see how my athletic guys are doing their evaluations and drafts, if that's happening. And if we're constantly seeing teams that are excelling and teams that are doing poorly, we're doing something wrong in our draft. Now, where that really conflicts is when you go down to social circle where you have maybe two teams, and then you have one team that wins and a team that loses, then we've really got a problem. But now if you have two teams that get first and second place in the league, well, that was just a lot of talented girls or talented boys that are playing in that league. For the most part, in West Walton, where we'll have 6, 7 teams in the league and very competitive coaches, you don't see that happen a lot. There's usually teams that do, somebody's going to win the league, but you're going to have teams that win 1 or 2 games. But as far as the experience goes, I don't know that it's a issue with the staff that's not preparing for the programs, because we're very strict on how we go through that process, from registration to team selections to the uniform orders to the game schedules to going out to their games. I mean, the same associations are calling and umpiring those games, so to us it's all the same. And we get that a lot, where they go to one part and they say we play by a set of rules, and then they go to another part and they play by another set of rules. Well, it's the same rule book. Sometimes you get a little interpretation from an umpire or an official that may differ, but it is the same rule book. And it should be called the same. And that frustrates me when somebody says, we got shorted on time. Well, time should be the easiest thing in a baseball or a softball game. It is what it is. You play your time length and you finish the inning. It's very simple. But that happens periodically, where some umpire goes, there's 5 minutes left, let's go ahead and call the game.
and along with staff, software.
Okay. Staff-wise, and as far as quality, we can always get better. I'm a person that likes to strive to get better on a daily basis. You know, I have been here 24 years with Walton County, 34, 35 as a director at other places, and I still today want to learn something new every day. I'm not one that's going to go, well, that's the way we did it, and that's the way we're going to do it. I'm not that kind of guy. I want to learn. And if it comes to software, I would love to learn that software. There's only so many schedulers I've got left in my brain to learn, but if there's a better one out there, I would love to learn it. Right now, we're using QuickBooks, is that right? Quick Scores, sorry, QuickBooks is what we use for finance. Quick Scores is what we're utilizing, and it's a little different. But as far as staffing goes, from the level that we're maintaining now, you know, I think we have adequate staff for the level that we're maintaining now. But can we get better and can we get more efficient? Absolutely. And we are working towards the efficiency side. If we want higher standards, like a person that's handling our marketing, from someone that's going out and doing you know, public addressing and really pushing that out there of anything that's going on, I think that would be an addition to our department that we could probably look at. If we want someone that's cleaning the outdoor restrooms, right now we have one guy that does the community centers, and then our maintenance guys are doing all the outdoor stuff and the bathrooms. So I think that's probably where we could add to, is have someone that's going and that's what they learn, and that's what they do. Can they get to all 5 parks in a day? It would be tough, but you know, at least you'd have that one person that would go in and deep clean those facilities. I think that might be an addition that we would want to look for.
I know we have at least one question out in the audience. Ben, would you share the mic and we'll start that?
Thank you. My name is Summer Adcock. We spoke.
Yes.
The first question was regarding the uniform pricing. I saw flag football, but I did not see football. Is there a number for the? Okay. How, do you know the amount, the price? Do you know the amount that you're paying for the football? And the uniform includes what items?
Sure.
Shirt, just the shirt, jersey? Okay. And then secondly, regarding the restrooms at Felker, I've noticed in the last week or so they've been unlocked, which is heading in the right direction. And the reason for them being locked and barred for the past few years has been vandalism. What has changed in the past few weeks that has allowed you to keep them open and accessible?
To my knowledge, they're not open 24/7.
I'm talking during park operating hours from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
I mean, I've got my maintenance guys here, and they unlock them at 5 o'clock every day. They're unlocked when the maintenance guys clean them during the mornings, and then they're locked back up, and then they're unlocked at 5 o'clock when the program starts.
Okay, that doesn't answer my question. What has changed?
Nothing has changed with as far as opening and closing of the bathrooms.
Sir, yeah, they've been locked and barred, and you know this very well.
I'm confused at what times are you referring to that they've been locked?
Every single day, every day of the week for the past few years.
And they still are they not?
I'm not
No,
sure
they're
either because
open.
I've been in there and
I've been
they've
twice in the
open.
past week, and they have been open, unlocked, available, and clean.
When have you gone? Have you gone like after 5 when programming is on?
I've gone during regular hours and during 5 when practices are being held. This is all in the past 10 days. and
So I think she's referring to when there's no programs going on.
no, I'm not. Sir, listen, I'm going to try and make this very
I
simple.
thought you said before 5.
No. What I am asking is that the reason that was given to me for the bathrooms being locked and barred was vandalism. You repeated this again earlier.
Right.
What has changed in the past few weeks that has allowed you to keep those restrooms open and accessible?
Again, I don't know anything that's changed.
So I think that they have always supposed to be unlocked when people are
Yes.
using the fields, and I think it's been an oversight that they haven't gotten unlocked, and they're moving forward trying to be sure that they are unlocked for usage. So I think it's moving in the right direction, like you said, to ensure that the park, I don't think that anything has changed circumstantially. but I think they're just trying to do a better job of, making sure that they are unlocked when people are using the fields.
Thank you. That was a pretty simple answer. Thanks.
I think that's what we're getting at. Anybody else have a comment? I got more.
Jody?
I got a
the,
question too.
One of the questions that I have is like, it sounds like you have a lot of maintenance issues, from grading the infield to striping it to cutting the grass and everything. It sounds like something that maybe some turf infields, like on the softball and baseball fields, may cut down on a lot of that and actually free up some of your staff for other duties.
Oh, it absolutely would. I mean, there's still maintenance on turf,
Sure.
but it does cut down tremendously.
That was what was on the main list of
That was on the
recommendations.
main list.
Sure, and I know we've discussed that before, but it just sounds like from a lot of what takes up, the worker's time is maintenance on the infield and getting everything laid out and striped and getting all that other stuff done. So it just seems like it.
Why don't we put a list together, which I know you already did to agree, priority of which infield needs to be turf first, and then see if we can work and make any progress on addressing those.
Yeah, and I think that one, we prioritize what the general idea was, and then we start assembling the different revenue sources that can go at chipping away at some of those things, and I think that will go long ways.
Jody, I've heard baseball, football, softball, soccer. Haven't heard the word basketball mentioned at all. Well, how many gyms do we have in the county, and what's our basketball offerings, and what is the rationale behind charging kids to use Now Rec Center?
First, we have 6 gyms.
Okay.
In the county, we have the 2 at Felker, one at Felker, 2 at Nowell, 1 at South Walton, and the double gymnasium at Meridian. We offer basketball twice a year. We offer it in traditional wintertime, which is generally we start around end of October, as the fall season ends, and we go through about the middle of February with some of the All-Stars. Then we again offer it in the summertime, which is generally the June schedule for our summer basketball. We average around 15, 16, 1,700 kids in basketball season in the wintertime, and around 400 to 500, 600 in the summer. I don't think we've hit 600 yet, so around 400, 500 in the summertime. As far as the daily usage, is that what you're referring to?
Yeah,
At
I
Felker?
understand we're charging kids to use. They want to walk up to play basketball. They got to pay a certain fee to use the field or use the gym.
Well, they call it a daily fee, and if their family's members, they don't get charged. We have a membership fee, which is $104 a year that we prorate those fees, and if those families are members, they don't have to pay.
Members of what?
Members of the community center.
Okay.
So we have a membership, and if you're over 60, it's free. All you have to do is buy a membership card. But as far as daily walk-up users, for in-county, Marnie's here, a daily fee for $2? It's $2 for Walton County, and then we double that for anybody out of county.
And what's the
Well-
rationale behind that? Why are we charging kids to use? What's the purpose of the fee? Is it to pay for
I mean, you have to be a certain age.
staff, or what's the purpose of it?
It's just a daily fee for anybody that wants to use the upstairs or the downstairs for basketball. It's a daily fee. But you have to have an adult with you to be able to do that, and I think we have an age of, was it? Under 11 is free. Okay. Yeah, under 11 is free with an adult.
Does the adult have to pay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Jody, a question for you. So I know a little while back, we decided to do a pilot program for Felker Park on the flock cameras. To go in there and install those to cut down vandalism, because ma'am, to address your concern, there was a lot of vandalism out there, and that's why we actually chose Felker Park to move forward with that program. Do you feel like that's helping in deterring, or have we had some incidents and we caught them? Like, do we have any data or feedback on that?
We're seeing it happen, but we're not catching anybody because they're usually
On foot.
pretty smart of how they deter themselves from being seen if they're planning on doing any vandalism. So I wouldn't say, we've caught a couple of people out at Walnut Grove with the cameras just because we've seen vehicles doing donuts and things like that. We don't really have that. It's more walk-through traffic at Felker than we have cars vandalizing. And at Walnut Grove, we have the cars that we're able to get their tags. So we're able to track it back and see what actually happens, but we haven't been able to see faces and see who's doing it. We usually call the police, and that's usually as far as it goes out
Okay.
at Felker. So, I mean, I would say vandalism is down a little, and it's usually just trends when school's out. You get a lot more vandalism. When school's in, it tends to die back.
Thank you for the feedback.
Yep.
Joe, they hear a lot of complaints from the community about travel ball versus just regular rec programs. How are you juggling the two aspects of recreation when it comes to, baseball especially, I guess, when it comes to travel?
There's two aspects of the travel that I'll talk about. One is the travel teams that practice, and then the travel organizations that come in and rent. So the first one is the travel field usage. So we have two periods of time that we do travel field usage. We do a spring, and then we do a fall. So those teams can come in, they go to our coordinators, and based on field availability, and I say that because some of the older fields, we only have one of, like at Criswell, we only have one large field, so when they get to a certain number of teams in that particular age group, they cut it off. We generally have between 30 and 40 teams that take advantage of that. They pay a $35 in-county fee and a $70 out-of-county fee. They bring in their rosters to us. We take the rosters, we add it up. If the player is playing during the season, in that current season, we waive that fee for that particular kid because he's already paying to utilize the fields. And then they are allowed to call the coordinators at each park on Monday after 12 o'clock to reserve fields once practice begins. You know, these guys, they like it when before practices begin. They can get on most any field anytime, but once practices start, they have to call in after 12 o'clock once the coordinators have already set the practice schedules for all of the traditional rec players to play. So that's how the travel field usage works. As far as the travel teams that come in and organize tournaments, once we see how many players we have registered for the season, and somewhat the schedule is starting to get laid out of number of days that we're going to need at which parks, then we have dates that are open on Saturdays or Saturdays and Sundays for those organizations to come in and rent. And then we open it up for those organizations to do it on the weekends.
How does our fee schedule for both the teams, I'm gonna say club usage and then tournament organizers, how does our fee schedule compare to other facilities?
I'd say on the high end, as far as field usage, we're probably the model, because most places have gone to what we created. Some don't do it at all, as far as charging travel teams to go on their teams for practices. If they have ample spots, it's just kind of, they just go, and if it's open, they go, and if it's not. As far as the travel ball rental fees, we're probably in the middle. I'd say the low end is 200 and the high end is 300, and we're at 250 per day per field. So there is some room there to go up, but
Are our travel fees, or our, I'm gonna say tournament fees, are our tournament fees or rental fees, whatever you wanna call it, are they covering the expenses, the cost to run the park for a day?
I guess anything outside, because on top of the per day fee, they're paying an hourly maintenance fee. So they're paying a $25 per hour fee on top of that.
And that's for our staff to be
That's
there,
for the
right?
staff to be there, correct, to clean the bathrooms. Now, out of that $250, is it covering wear and tear? Is it covering toilet paper, trash bags? I would say that
Insurance, water,
they
power.
provide their own insurance for those.
We still have to have liability
Yeah, well,
insurance on the facility.
I don't know that changes because of it.
No, but we're not able, I mean, residents, and I'm gonna say most of the time, I'm generalizing, but most of the time when those tournaments come in, we aren't able to use the parks. Our teams aren't able to use the parks. We don't schedule on days that it's reserved for somebody for a tournament. So they're using the whole park. We can't use it. Are they covering the expense, that liability insurance for that park for that day and the whole cost of that park for that day?
I haven't broke down that math. I mean, I'd have
Okay.
to go back with Hank, who handles that issue with on the risk management side, to see what the percentage of tournament rental dates and the liability
And
insurance for those particular parks would be.
do we have, policies for how many times you can have a reservation on the calendar, when you can start reserving it? Or do we have tournaments reserved prior to our season schedule being set? Do we have, like, what are our policies around that?
Well, we discussed that a couple of years ago, where we never try to blanket every park that's taken. You know, if South Walton's taken, or if Criswell's taken, West Walton and South, they're never always at the same time. Usually it's one or two per month, not per month, per week that's used, so there's always one or two parks there are left open. West Walton rarely gets used for tournaments because we do utilize it more on Saturdays because of the number of teams that play out of that park. South Walton gets probably used well, now the Grove gets used more than any because everybody wants that for the softball events and some of the baseball events, but and then South Walton. So Criswell gets used probably in the middle, you know, probably I think 3 to 4 times during our game season last year, where the Grove was probably used 6 times during our regular season. We certainly can look at limiting that.
For the tournaments that get booked, and I'm thinking primarily softball, baseball, are they actually fulfilling their reservations, or are they canceling them? Because, I mean, I've looked at a schedule, and there have been some organizers that had every single weekend for.
Last year was an anomaly that we didn't get any rain whatsoever last year. So for the most part, I would say 95%.
So all of those tournaments made, and they fulfilled their reservation, or they didn't cancel it?
I'm not saying they maxed out every one of them, but I would say they did utilize a good number of those events were maxed out. I'll be honest, at the Grove, they would play, if we allowed, they would play all year long out there. It's sought after by 3 and 4 different organizations that we generally work with, just because we know that those tournaments will make. So we generally try to stay with the ones that we know that the teams around here will gravitate towards, which is the USSSAs, the USFAs, Perfect Games. We've got a new one in now that's what's the name of the? 1733. We're going to give them a try this year and see how they do. That's an individualized tournament, so it's a little different.
I would like to review our fee schedule, and I would like to look and see how it compares to some of the other facilities in the area. And also how our, policies around that tournament usage, so that we can maybe have a better balance. That's a conversation that you hear a lot, especially at the soccer, football fields and the softball, baseball fields. Doesn't seem to be much of an issue with basketball.
Basketball, the reason you don't have it for basketball is we're pretty much in those 6 gyms 6 days a week. And
yeah.
there's just no room in there because of the number of gyms we
I
have.
don't know that
Plus, the main basketball organization knows they can't get gyms anywhere else around here, so they put their season after ours. Is the reason you don't see a lot of basketball issues.
Maybe one day volleyball will be an issue.
And maybe volleyball and soccer. And one thing I will add on the travel field usage, because we do have some schools that come in, we do have some select soccer teams that come in, and there are a few baseball and softball that do this, but not as much, where they're part of the field usage, but they want to host a game themselves. So in those situations, if they're bringing an outside team in, they have to, again, rent the field. We charge them $100 for a 4-hour block for that as well.
So we only have 15 more minutes, and I want to be cognizant of time, but we've had issues in the past. I know you and I have talked about scheduling, places for cheerleaders to practice. We have a lot of girls that cheer. And, football practices and things. We've had instances where we don't find locations for the cheerleaders to practice. They have to do that on their own. When we've had some coaches that reached out to the community centers to see if there was like an open room that they could practice in, and they were told they had to pay to reserve it. And I feel like maybe we need to review those policies and see if we can utilize some of those meeting spaces or other things for groups that could use that.
And I think the reason some of that is that we want to be fair to everybody, not just the ones that call in on certain days. So,
Well, again, those are things that we could do, policies and procedures, and have so that we have an
maybe on a point system where
even
you get to
playing
have
field.
it twice a year or 2 or 3 times.
We can look at all of. I mean, I just think there's a way that we can do better by our girls and let them have a place to practice rather than them having to. Most of them practice where the football teams practice.
And
but
that became a problem too. We got shut down at Walnut Grove this past year. They just didn't have enough parking space where the football teams are practicing out there. So we've moved them to the large pavilion under the.
We've had We've had football practices. I've been at football practices for, rec league when the high school was clearly trying to use the field. And high school groups were clearly trying to use the field. And so we probably need to kind of maybe review some of the policies there.
We definitely need to address the issue of, I know in the second phase of Walnut Grove, we talked about expanding some of the flat areas which could be used. Football practice has become a problem. And it used to not be a problem when our soccer program was a lot smaller. And now that the soccer program has expanded and they need more fields, it's kind of taken back what used to be football. And that's a little tough pill to swallow that, hey, you're not getting Felker Park, and you're back in the back section, which is not as nice as the front section, and that's just a grass issue that we referred to earlier. So we need more flat areas that people can practice and have open areas that won't get the wear and tear, because football really takes a beating on our facilities at a time, as we know, in October, the grass is going to stop growing, and it's going to look like that for the remainder of the year and until halfway through our spring season, because as everybody knows, we're in our fall schedule, and it's 98 degrees right now. And then when we start our spring season, it's going to be 32 degrees.
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
It is tough.
Ben's got a question out from.
May I get a question in, please? This wish list, approximately 14 million, this is a work session. And for us to look at the future, I need it prioritized. I'd like to know how many fields already have LED lighting and how many are still lacking, and which concession stands need renovating, batting cages, and give us a list so we can work in the future financially to address these things.
Yes, sir.
Right now, we have 4 fields that are.
I'd like to have it
to grow.
by the end of the year because budget season starts right after the first, so.
Yes, sir.
Budget start before that.
Let me kick it out to Ben so we can get some questions from the audience, please.
Hi, I'm Gareth Finley. My question has to do with fees for the facilities and taking a cue from the commissioners who have also been questioning the magnitude of the fees. I have, over the past 8 years, sometimes used public meeting rooms at the facilities, the Meridian Park and Felker Center, and the fees are very high, and you require a substantial deposit. And I don't think that this leads to very broad utilization of the rooms by groups that don't have substantial money to spend. I think the fees could be reviewed and brought down. If you had more groups utilizing the rooms, you could charge less and get the same income.
It would be interesting to see what the utilization of those spaces are.
They're utilized more for programs than they are rental spaces.
Right.
Y'all met my wife earlier. I'm gonna hand something out to y'all, let you look at while I'm talking. My name is Jared Adcock. I've been part of the Walton County Rec teams since my oldest, who's now in high school, is in 3rd grade. And I have seen, I can't attest to Loganville and Walnut Grove. I'm not from Loganville, not from Walnut Grove. I'm a 20-plus year resident of Monroe. And Felker has fallen further and further behind over the years. You can look on here and see this, and this mostly pertains to football because that's what my boys play is football. So if you'll give me about 2 minutes, I'm gonna run through this real quick. I took off your website how many kids are playing tackle football this year. And I would like to note that you're missing 19 of them playing in Monroe because our 11U doesn't have a rec team. We're playing travel ball because of the lack of help and effort that the rec has shown to us over the last 4 or 5 years. Loganville is a 6A cluster. Walnut Grove is a 6A cluster. Monroe is a 4A cluster. We've got less kids in Monroe per in the community, but you've got the same amount playing at Felker as you have the other parks in tackle football. Monroe is 57% free and reduced lunch. The other two communities are above or below 44. So that tells you where we're at. And these are easy statistics that come from the state. You can read through this. This is what sports is teaching these kids, and they don't have the opportunity to learn this stuff because for whatever reason, Walton County Rec decided to go up to $145 a kid this year. Well, when 57% of your kids are on free and reduced lunch, they can't afford that. So that comes to us coaches. We have to pay it. I have bought more footballs, more cleats, more mouthpieces, more pants, more socks than I'd like to count. And I don't do it for a good job or a attaboy. I do it because the kids need it. They don't have it. If a kid wants to play football, I'm going to pay for it, and we'll figure out the rest later. It's no big deal. So not only am I a coach, I'm the financier, and anyone that's ever played for me tell you I'm the guy that buys dinner, and that's okay too, because they're going to get fed before they go home. But I used your numbers that you provided us for registration fees. We had $68,720 worth of fees. That equates to 446 kids. After you gave the refunds, we spent $15,610 on uniforms. That does work out to $35 a jersey. I will tell you, my travel ball team is paying $125, and we get 3 full uniforms, a bag, an undershirt, and that includes pants and socks. And we're paying $125. So you may want to reconsider your $35 for a jersey, but that's a discussion for another day. Helmets. We spent $17,000 of that $68,000 on helmets at my cost at $165 a helmet, and I'm pretty sure if you're buying 10 or more, you're going to get a substantial discount. That's 105 helmets. We've got 23% of the kids this year playing in new helmets. I don't believe that. We were told that you replace helmets every 7 years. Why do we need to buy a quarter of the helmets in use if we're not replacing them for 7 years? Now, 7 years is ridiculous. A football helmet should never be used longer than 3 or 4 years. But your words, not mine, we're replacing them every 7 years. So where are the helmets? Shoulder pads, we spent $4,580. That's 36 new sets of shoulder pads. Now, typically, your shoulder pad and your helmet's going to wear out at the same time because the kids are growing the same. Why are we buying 38? And that, again, that's at my cost, not the county's cost. I know y'all can get it cheaper than I can because I'm going to Academy Sports or I'm getting them from Amazon when my kids don't have it. Footballs. At $50 a piece is what I pay for them. That's 28 new footballs. Who do y'all give footballs to? I've been coaching for 4 years and I've never received a football. I buy 3 footballs every year. No team that I have ever coached has ever received a football from Walton County Rec. Now, they may be going to Walnut Grove and they may be going to Loganville, but they ain't coming to Felker. Additional costs that the children incur, not counting the $145, pants, cleats, socks, mouthpieces, practice jerseys, etc. Those are things that when the parents don't have it, the rec department doesn't bring it to us. The coach has to do it. Now, as anybody sitting out here knows, us coaches, we're not paid. Well, not monetarily anyways. When a kid comes up that I coached 4 years ago and gives me a hug, buying his cleats was worthless, but neither here nor there. So we've already hit the bathrooms at Felker as far as the Felker problems, and you can address the money in a second, but I want to finish. Equipment, condition of. We don't send the old helmets off to get reconditioned. Again, that makes absolutely no sense if you're going to have a kid use it for 7 years. Neither here nor there. Maintenance on them. The return policy. The return policy at Felker, in my experience, and every kid that I've ever coached, you take it to the gym, you drop it off. There is no sign-in sheet. There's no no one takes your name down. They have no way of knowing who brought the equipment back. And I know this to be a fact because two of my kids that are playing travel ball had hurricanes on the side of their helmet when they started playing with us this year. So I know they didn't turn it back in. Maybe if we could address how we receive the equipment back, we wouldn't have to spend $17,000 on new helmets every year. And we could lower the price per kid so that we could encompass more kids in the community to come play. Safety, just when in the North Georgia Youth Football League, I would assume that somebody is supposed to be there when a kid gets hurt. I have taped up and had to call an ambulance on one kid because he got completely knocked out. We stayed in the emergency room with him till 2 in the morning, till they released him. Where is the safety? Is that provided by the high school or is that provided by rec? Access to management. You can call Felker at any given day and you're not going to talk to anybody but the receptionist. And you're not going to get a phone call back. And I don't use this as a generalized statement. I know people say always and never. Never would you get a call back from Felker. Coaching requirements. Again, I've been coaching in this league for 4 years. I would like to think I'm a good person. I'm a Christian. I've never had a background check. Is that not a requirement for coaches at the Walton Rec Department? Field usage. Speaking specifically on Felker, you have purple, you have gold. Those were dedicated football fields that you said yourself earlier, the old booster club before we went to North Georgia Youth Football League got the grass growing good so the kids could play football on it. We have since been moved off of those fields and we get blue and half of red. Now, mind you, red was initially designed with the tier systems so that you could have 8 40-by-20 fields for youth soccer, so you didn't take up all the football fields. That doesn't happen anymore, so the football, again, is stuck on blue and part of red, no lines painted. Like you were saying, ma'am, the hardest thing to teach a 7-year-old is to line up onside, whether offense or defense. If there's no line out there, you can't teach them. I don't think it's too much to ask to, let the youth utilize the football fields that were made for football and let the soccer teams use the soccer fields that were made for soccer, because anybody that's ever seen a football field, it ain't 40-by-20 and you can't practice on that. And field facility fees. We were told as a travel team, we could not use Felker Park A to practice in, which we since learned that was not correct, but we can't rent the fields either to play on, which they let baseball do it. I don't know why my kids can't come out here and play, but that's something you can answer. But my biggest question is, if in prior years, the high school, they take the gate, they take the concession stand, they pay for the refs. Would that be a correct statement? Right. Okay. Why not this year?
Why is it not this year?
Or is the rec department paying for the refs?
The ADs have come to us and asked us to pay a portion of that.
All
We haven't come to an agreement on that yet.
Okay. Then where's the $20,000 extra that you charge these kids to play football? Where is it going?
Yeah, well, that's a portion of it is probably going to that.
All right.
We haven't negotiated yet, but more than likely that's where that's going to wind up.
At $500 a ref, 4 refs a game, 3 on the field, 1 in the booth, for six games, you're talking $2,000 a day, or $1,800 a day, excuse me. 3 home games per unit, that don't come to $20,000. So where does that money go?
I'm going to have to get this to a close. We'll get whatever answers from Jody on your questions, because we have another meeting starting at 6:30. And I want to appreciate y'all coming out and questions. Parks and Rec is the only department that's not required the county to have. So it's a bonus department. It is not part of the covenants that the state of Georgia allows us to operate under. And it's great, and it has some shortcomings in places, but that's the reason we wanted to have a work session with comments. I would like to address the background check. Yours truly. Any coach coaching kids in today's world needs to have a background check.
So I appreciate everybody coming. I appreciate your comments. I would love for the department to come together. I would love to see the policies on the background checks, who's coaching, what happens if you cheat knowingly, if a coach knowingly cheats, are they still coaching in our league? So all of those things, a proposal for things that you might want to change or recommendations to make the department better, to make the experience better, to improve communication, what we can do to support Parks and Rec, to improve it across the board, to make it better for the employees, to make it better for the participants, to make it more transparent, and to make it safer for our kids, and that includes liability. Some of the other things that I wanted to talk about that we didn't get to were the security, the background checks, communicating those policies to parents directly. I don't think we need volunteers espousing county policy to parents. I think that needs to come directly from the county. Having policies and procedures available on the website, like the rules, and then park rules in general, I think we probably need to make sure those are posted because they're inconsistent. And so I would love to see just some proposals from the county or from the department to make it better. Let's do better, be better.
All right.
I think everybody wants that. So thank you so much for coming. Thank you for,
Let's take a 3-minute break, and then we'll come back and start the second meeting on the old repurposing of the old jail facility. complex. That's on South Madison. And I'm going to begin by reading a letter from the judges of the Judicial Circuit Superior Court. On behalf of the judges of the Alcovey Judicial Circuit Superior Court, the District Attorney's Office, and the Public Defender's Office, we write to express our sincere appreciation for your invitation to meet yesterday and discuss future plans for courthouse space. Your initiative is bringing together our offices for this conversation reflects the kind of forward-thinking leadership that serves Walton County well. As we discuss, the Alcovey Judicial Circuit is among the fastest-growing judicial circuits in the state of Georgia. The workload across all classes of courts, as well as the District Attorney's Office and the Public Defender's Office, continues to increase in direct proportion to the growth of our community. That trajectory shows no sign of slowing. Thus, the need for additional space is not a matter of if, but when. And we believe it is both prudent and necessary to begin planning now rather than react to a crisis later. And it goes on, and they support. And this started out by trying to make more space at Hammond Drive for another courtroom and another judicial. We moved the public defenders out of the historic jail next to the courthouse into where planning and zoning was at. And moved planning and zoning on Court Street, remodeled that building, made room for that. And now we have other needs, and we really need to get finance and facilities out of Hammond so the court system can have the ample room they need. When the court system's back up, then the prisoners back up in the jail, and then it costs the taxpayers a lot of money. So I'm going to turn it over to John Ward, and we've come up with proposals to start working on this. And John, go ahead.
Okay. And as part of that, we're anticipating that in the next year to 2 years, the state of Georgia will be adding, they typically add 3 judges at a time, and we're on the top of, up towards the top of the list for that. So we're trying to be proactive in this. When a new judge is assigned, in our situation, we already have more judges than we have courtrooms, so that becomes a scheduling issue in order to keep the process moving forward. When a new judge is assigned, that typically comes with an additional assistant district attorney and additional public defenders. So that is part of the focus of creating the initial domino effect of how do we create space and what do we do to react to that. The vacation of the previous jail, the front part of the building that you see that is on the very front towards the street, this was the admin offices for the jail. The while dated, the bones of that building are solid. The center part that you see in the complex here, that is the oldest portions of the housing unit. That is the area that was in the worst condition. The area to the right, you'll see, is a previous addition that was added to expand the number of beds there. So as we go through some of these pictures, this is the center area that you enter when you walk into the front door of the complex. These are some of the offices, some of the storage areas that were vacated. This is a portion of one of the towers. This is where inmates would have been housed. More of an intake area. The center portion is where a visitation occurred. and that has ample parking. We would need to upgrade the asphalt, but this is some of the gate systems that were in the area. And again, this is the overall footprint of the complex that we're discussing. This is a rendering that was completed by Precision Planning, and Liz Hudson's with me today. And Liz, as we get into some of the rest of this, I'd ask that if you don't mind, if you'll step up, we'll kind of tag team some of this. But this rendering here, to the left, the very far box to the left here, is an existing structure that would be repurposed for emergency management. Across the front, the offices would be renovated. The parking lot in the center that you see, that would be after the demolition of the central housing unit. And the area to the right, which is the existing housing pods, that would be for storage and elections. This is the overall breakdown of what we're discussing. The left, the green section, would be made available for human resources. All the way over to the right, the lighter blue, would become planning. And it's important to note that one of the things that we would be doing is relocating potentially planning to this area so that we have a lot of conflicts on Court Street with developers and trucks, people coming by for permits, pulling trailers and trying to navigate Court Street. Another complication that we have on Court Street is limited parking. We currently rent parking from Peters and Foster's because once employees come to work, they take off in the work trucks, so we almost need double parking there. This would clear up that issue and relocate planning into an area that could be better accessed. What we would do with the existing planning building is we would move finance there, so that would vacate the space at Hammond Drive and allow finance to be closer to the admin offices of the commission chair and the manager here at the historic courthouse, because there is a lot of signatures and work that takes place between finance, and it would reduce the finance staff as well as David and I from driving back and forth to Hammond Drive. The pink area is going to be fire admin. The yellow area would be EMS. Moving over toward the right, this would end up being elections that's currently on Spring Street, and that would provide for additional support and safe, secure storage of voting machines. In the area, the other two pods that you see here would become dedicated county storage. There is no dedicated county storage across the entire county, and we have things placed everywhere. For instance, there's plans that have to be kept through planning and development. There's actual caseload stuff that has to be kept through the district attorney's office that can never be removed, and different things like that that would allow that. This area here is the old work release building that could be repurposed for EMA. We have a variety of volunteer trainings and class, as well as group meetings that could be held in the meeting area and then the office space that's there. This is a rendering of adding in, utilizing the existing building, adding in landscaping. Obviously, we'd be taking down a lot of the chain link and all of the razor wire that's there currently, adding your traditional street lights and making it a expanded use facility for the general public to come in for services. There's a couple, so this is one option. Another option that was discussed in the past was a new facility. If you were to center bottom of the screen, that would be Hammond Drive. This would be a potential new facility directly in front of Hammond Drive, but I think it's important to note the price differences as well as the different departments that would be served. So Liz, if you'll come up and join me for this portion. On the left, you're seeing a renovation of the existing jail that was just vacated. There's two components to that, the hard cost or the construction cost, and then the soft cost. That's going to be the fixtures, furniture, architectural engineering, materials testing, and different things like that. So for the renovation of the jail facility, you're looking at about $21,900. The departments that would be impacted, would that be providing a relocation area for elections, fire, rescue, emergency medical or EMS, EMA, and human resources. Elections is always struggling with space because of their needs for storage. Fire rescue is out of space, and a co-location of fire rescue, emergency medical, and EMA would allow for better public safety coordination as well as joint and shared resources. And another big one
Can I
is,
interrupt you? Where is the code department in the potential departments?
that would be an additional one we need to add to this list. Thank you for pointing it out. The Human Resources Department, where that is important is we have, they're currently operating out of the small house just out back behind the Employee Health Clinic. They're out of space there. They can't do employee orientation on site, so they have to go somewhere else. And we would be able to potentially surplus that building if we were to move Human Resources there. But if you would add to the potential departments there, that would also be planning and development. On the right-hand side, on the new building, that's actually a hard cost and a soft cost of a little over $31,582,000. And what that does is it moves the tag and tax office out of Hammond Drive. It potentially locates finance to that building and human resources. You would not be able to adequately move because of the equipment, the storage, and the different things like that, emergency medical or EMS, EMA. So you're having you're still creating some space over at Hammond Drive at a higher cost, but you're not impacting the total space needs of quite anywhere near the same amount of departments as the renovation of the older facility.
Forgive me for interrupting, but on the proposal for the old jail, repurposing the old jail,
Yes.
the original plan was to move finance to the old jail, and we swapped it out.
We swapped
For
that out in
planning and
the initial
development.
discussions to address
you-
the rental of space
Right.
and different needs.
Could you do that same thing at the new building? If we were to construct a new building, could you swap out finance with planning and development?
Their square footage is almost the same.
They're almost the same. We would just have to really make sure that throughout the movement of the parking area and other things like that, and potentially expansion of the parking spaces itself to double up so that they could leave their personal car there when they're taking their work car out. But most importantly in that we just need to address the issue, and it's still such an early stage that I think that could be done, but we would need to make sure that we could get better access through for public, for the Planning and Development Department, because we do have a lot of large trucks, and oftentimes they have trailers.
If you've got people coming into the tax and tag office, it would make sense that we would have an opportunity for.
Yes, so that might be a potential flip that we could do there, but since we're in the early stages and since the square footage are very similar.
Question.
Yes.
I know you're trying to compare apples for apples, but do we need 39,000 square feet for tax, tag, finance, and human resources? That seems excessive square footage.
Yeah,
That would be a new building out of hand.
I know, but do we need a building that size for just those three departments? I'm just curious, like how many square foot they're occupying now.
If I remember right, and this is something that we pulled from older discussions. The first two, this is a potential of a 3-story building.
Mm-hmm.
The first 2 floors would be occupied by the departments of tag office, tax assessor, tax commissioner, finance, or planning, and human resources. The concept behind this initial design was to create the building for 3 stories so that the additional floor could be populated and utilized at a future date because of the cost savings of going up versus continuing to spread out. So there is additional space built into this that could be further built out. But the anticipated cost, I believe, right, Liz, was just to finish out the bottom 2 floors.
That's right, that was the original plan. But the reason these numbers are the same on the 2 spreadsheets is so you can compare apples to apples. So this is comparing if we were to renovate that 40,000 square foot building versus building a new one.
And forgive me if I'm getting ahead of myself, how many people could be, I mean, how many office spaces could we have, desk spaces? How many employees could come to work at either?
And Liz can speak to that because she did a space analysis with a 10-year window of growth.
It's 86.
In both?
No, that's just in the renovated.
In the renovated?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the capacity?
The one on the right was looked at 2 years ago just to see what it would cost to move some departments out of Hammond to provide this court space. That's not what we're talking about doing right now.
Well, I think there's been a lot of conversation about other options and what the other options would be to create the space at the court. So I think it's a relevant, comparison to have available.
Do we have any idea what the value is of the property where the old jail is currently located, like that real estate value would be?
No. The real estate itself, if it was all removed, but you're talking about almost $2 million removing just a portion, that first part of the old jail, and hauling it off. The property is already set up with generator backup, the whole complex. Fiber is already there. It's just very, very dated as far as the sheriff's office spot. Sheriff and patrol was there. The left-hand side where human resources going was the Alcovey juvenile court and offices. And then the area behind it is what's it called where they bring the prisoners in?
Intake.
Sallyport.
Sallyport.
Intake. And that would be perfect for EMS. And the plan, if all this was put together, was we free up the space in Hammond. They would, the EMS would move from there on, going out of town, where elections is at. Mm-hmm. They would move out, and elections would move out, and facilities would move out of the half of the basement into that building. And it would make everything work.
It would be any vacation of the space out at Hammond Drive would start the domino effect and allow for the courts. So we've identified kind of some talking points of the 4 different options that are currently there. One is to do nothing and wait and see, and wait until we've been assigned a judge and then try to figure it out later. That avoids some capital spending. It does not address any of the shortages of spaces that have been identified by the departments who are in some of the older buildings or co-located. It still leaves the jail sitting as is and vacated, and the aging process and that would be going on there. So you also, by delaying, you're compounding future capital cost or construction cost. We've all experienced that back when the original SPLOST was passed for the jail. If
Yeah,
that,
we have the actual bids after that splosh was passed to build the facility that we just built. They could have done it in 2016 for $47 million. And they sat on their butts and did not do it. And the facility cost us $152 million. That's what procrastination and waiting will do to you. And we've seen the highest jolt of inflation the last 5 years that this country's ever seen, with 37% increase in cost of goods and services in this country in the last 5 years. If you don't believe it, buy a gallon of gas, a gallon of milk, dozen eggs. Everything, housing has doubled. This will utilize a facility that we have. We have the need for the space, and we have the money in the bank. We don't have to bond this or borrow the money. What else do you need?
in just a
allow
minute,
the
we'll
public
open
to
it
make
up.
comments here in a minute.
So the first one is do nothing. The second one is the potential full renovation of the old jail facility. You end up improving the building, you co-locate fire, EMS, and EMA, you enhance the security of HR by having a deputy on site for that. You've got courthouse space that's vacated at Hammond Drive. You increase election security, and we have a dedicated site for records retention across the county.
There's a third
This-
option. You can just dump it, sell it for whatever it'll bring, which will not be much. I think Liz did an appraisal. It's less than $4 million, and it's a huge site, so.
So the third one is a phased renovation, and I'll back up to a footprint just to kind of share that. If you look to the left, that's EMA. You look all the way to the right, in the building that looks like a K, that's where elections would be housed. The building to the left of that and the K would be the records retention. The center portion is where HR, planning, emergency management, EMS and fire would be located. So you could potentially do a phased approach, but one of the things with that is that you're going to have lower capital outlay. You're going to have a higher cumulative project cost because you're going to have mobilization of 1 to 2 to 3 times. And then you've got our ability to adapt. So you're going to be able to look and see how the renovation of the main core of the building was going, and then over time, at your comfort level, be able to assign additional funds to the other expansion of those areas. And then the fourth option that was identified is the new build. It frees up court space. It does become pretty convenient for the public because everything's co-located out at Hammond Drive, and it is a newer facility that would have a good lifespan and low utility use. So with all of this, that's some of the different options that we kind of wanted to throw out there and be able to answer any questions with. And I think that with that, we can kind of open it up for questions to bounce back between the commission and the public as we discuss some of the different options that we have here.
Have we re-looked at the numbers as far as our general fund, and if we subtract $21 million from our general fund, how much we have left in the
We
general fund?
did. We just got through being rated by Moody's on the borrowing down, and the cash flow and the situation of the county got us a AAA rating. We're one of only 5 counties in the whole state with AAA rating. We have ample reserves. We even have the funds in the general fund to cover now the defined benefits unfunded balance.
So what would the bottom line number be if we took 21 million out? What do we have left to operate with?
We would have 20 from 84. You'd have 60. $63 million.
That would allow you to have your excess of your 2 months mandated reserve that you're required. It would allow you to continue to have the money that was set aside from the defined benefit unfunded mandate that we were been saving towards, and it would allow excess of that 21 million. So you would end up having still in the mid 60s.
When I came into office, your general fund was $26 million. You were basically bankrupt. If you reserved the reserve and that unfunded balance and defined benefits, Walton County didn't have enough money to operate if something had happened. We have worked over the years. COVID helped. The jobs that were approved by this board and didn't get hired in the sheriff's department during those years, that put money back in the general fund. We got all our departments working. The attrition amount of money saved put back in the general fund. It's a very, very proud operation.
You understand my question, though? Last time we discussed this, the impression was we wouldn't have any money left in the general fund if we did it.
Right.
Last time we discussed this.
Unencumbered after this be 33 million.
Last time we said it was,
discussed it.
have no
But
unencumbered.
encumbered is a trick word. You're holding 2 months operating funds in your general fund in case something happens. That's your fiscal policy. Well, that's almost 20 million now. You're holding 24 million for that unfunded liability, which doesn't have to be paid. But you're still holding it out of principle because it is a debt out there that sometimes going to have to be paid. You got 4.7 million in arbitrage that's going to have to be paid, and that's truly encumbered. You're holding that. So the funds are ample.
He also, previously, there was included $7.5 million to lend to a project that might need to be done, but I think that was included in the bonded money that they.
Yeah, we had the $7.5 million on hold that we advanced on the water treatment plant, but with this bonding, I included that 7.5. That frees up the $7.5 million that I had on hold of the general fund. So the water department, that's their debt, and now it'll be truly their debt. But I had to hold that $7.5 million in reserve until the bonding was done.
So there have been some changes in that, in what is actually
That's correct.
uncommitted and what is not.
Yeah, I believe it was 33 million unencumbered.
The
And
last,
I'll be glad to have the exact dollar amount. And it looks like there's going to be between 3.5 and 5.5 million go back in the general fund after this audit's over, for items that either were not purchased or positions that weren't filled.
The two things that I'll add to that is that we do have some requests coming in from the Sheriff's Department that are for use of reserve funds at the next meeting. And then beyond that, if you'll remember, we removed capital items from the budget in order to balance out and keep the millage rate the same, with the intention, knowing that we were taking savings and adding into that general fund approximately $6 million, and with the anticipation that we would bring back a prioritized list of equipment, trucks, vehicles, different things like that that are needed, that instead of building it into the budget, we would utilize savings. So there's 3 million roughly. I think we can trim that down some, but there's 3 million roughly that we anticipated out of the 6 million in savings that we would be considering. And that'll probably be at the, not at the September meeting, but at the October meeting.
And this project, if approved, will take 1 year and 8 months to do. So it's not going to be an immediate drain on the general fund balance.
So the first question is, do we really need the space? The courts have requested, the judge has come and requested an additional courtroom, which is going to cause a need for additional office space. The DA's office is out of space.
Public defender.
Public defender needs additional space. And if we do get another judge, the need for a courtroom
And chambers.
to accommodate the whole
Yes.
purpose of having another judge, chambers, and then the administrative staff for the expanded DA's office with the new ADA, and the public defender. So if we don't do anything, then it really defeats the purpose of having a new judge, because we're still scheduling based on courtroom availability. That would, I'm just thinking out loud, that would delay or lengthen the stay of inmates on the county bill. The quicker we get them through the courts and get them sentenced, the quicker they're on the state's bill or on their own bill. And then also, it delays the process of everybody who's got civil issues going on. It makes their process through the court system slower. So that's a public service aspect of it too. People who are, have lawsuits or custody issues, divorces, those kinds of things.
Your biggest variable of, we've done quite a bit, and we've worked in conjunction with the judges, the public defender, the district attorney, and everybody, and mostly also with the sheriff's department. And the judges have added additional court dates in order to help move that process along. Some of the things like that. Our biggest variable that we can't predict is that the longer someone stays in detention, waiting to go through the court system, it's not the daily cost, it's not feeding them, it's not housing them, it's the medical. And just to throw that out there, we're 100% responsible for someone's medical when they're detained in the jail. So part of this process is removing some of that variable and some of that liability. It doesn't remove it at all entirely, but the shorter time frame someone's in custody waiting to go before the judicial system, we're removing liability that has grown quite large over the years. And that liability only expands when you have expanded population. And we currently have nearly 900 beds. So one of the things that we're trying to do is work with that. Now, when they're looking at assigning new judges, I can only assume that one of the first things they're going to look at is if there's 4 communities that are in line, 2 of them don't have any space for the judge to go to, then those judges may be assigned to other communities as well. And then again, that results in us having prisoners in the jail for longer and exposing that liability. So that's just one of the different reasons why the space is needed, as well as the customer service of helping people move through the judicial system.
So that's the first question. Do we want to proceed with adding the space, for one? That's a need. So there's that. And then if we do, if we're in agreement on that, then the question would be, how do we want to address that space? Do we want to repurpose the old jail? Do we want to build new?
We are. As soon as the commissioners quit asking their questions.
I think we need the space now. And I think the longer we let the old jail sit there, if we're gonna do it, if it sits there 2 years, it's gonna cost more money because it's not gonna be kept up.
Well, excuse me? You'll be recognized. Do not holler from the stands. All right. You can go around and let them ask questions or make comments.
You'll hold it very close.
So I have a few questions. First, how much is it costing us for the jail to be, the old jail to be, just be sitting there empty? I'm sure there's a cost to it.
You would have, we've got our insurance there, as well as the utilities are still on.
Insurance.
But it has been limited, as much as possible. Facilities still goes by and checks on it, different things like that. But right now, there's not an extreme amount of cost. Our biggest savings was when we weren't operating both that jail and the new jail under the same operating budget, and you saw that drop off on the 27 budget that was just adopted.
So I mean, just from hearing things, I think that y'all definitely need the space, but cost is definitely a factor for the citizens. And so I don't even know why we're even entertaining or asking questions about a $32 million building to build. I don't even see how that could be an option. Second, in May, at the meeting, you talked about the general fund balance, which I know that that's what, I'm sorry, Mr. Adams was trying to bring up. You said that the general fund has a balance of $84 million, a little over $84 million. And then you went through all the numbers of the unfunded, the declined benefits that we had to take out of there, about $24 million. Some bonds, about $4 million. The
Arbitrage, yes.
the safety complex, about $7.7 million. The water treatment plant, $7.5 million. The 2 months of operating reserves, you said $17 million at the time. I guess it's gone up a little bit. Some sheriff merit pay, coming down to a balance of $21 million. You've just said now that we have way more than that. I know that it makes sense that you said we might not have to use the $7.5 million for the water plant. Is
The
that what you're saying?
7.5 is now gone.
Okay, so that increases it there. What else would have brought it up other than are we ending the year in a
The
surplus?
last payment on the jail, I was incorrect on.
Okay, so
No, it's at 33 million,
not 21.
not committed.
At the end too, and we haven't finalized the audit, but we'll also be bringing back savings from.
Oh, excuse me, we added 4.9 million in interest. Every dollar that the county has now is earning interest. So at year end, which was
June 30th.
June 30th, the interest accumulated at 4.9 million.
So last year, and I have the general fund balance worksheet from last year, that we were at $10 million. And that created, our general fund balance was at $10 million, and that is what created the increase to the millage rate, all the hoopla for everything.
You're
So
incorrect.
it was 10 million, and then you had a budget shortfall.
General fund's never been 10 million.
At the balance not committed was $10.7 million. Then there was a budget shortfall that took most of that 10.7 million.
You're talking about the budget request was 9.6 million short.
9.6.
Is the reason the mill rate increase was done. Had
Because
nothing to do with the general fund.
Well, this worksheet says that it did, and that's why we had to raise the millage rate, which is why I think most of us are concerned about using the majority of the general fund ending balance towards a new project.
There's needs that this board has to provide.
Right, and
by law.
I am actually for
And these
this.
departments are part of those needs.
I am actually.
And they are expanding.
Yeah, I'm actually for the project. I think y'all need the space. I think it's definitely very good. My fear is using the most of the funds in the general fund balance.
Well, you're
to pay
incorrect.
for it.
We're not using most of them.
I think that's a common concern that a lot of the commissioners have had, using at one point it was all of the uncommitted funds.
Right, it's the uncommitted
And the
amount.
reserves.
And I know you said that now you're going to have 33 million or 35
Well,
million.
what I consider committed, auditors don't consider it. I'm a very conservative guy with numbers. And when I hold something like that unfunded liability, 24 million, the law doesn't say hold it. David Thompson said hold it to finance. You hold it to the side. Because
but that was
someday,
also the reason
sometime down the road,
Raise the millage rate, though,
that's
is
going to
when-
mushroom and have to be paid.
when we didn't have enough to hold, that was the reason to raise the millage rate, which
Well,
because
you-
we want to protect ourselves. Like I said, I'm for the project, but is there other ways to get some of this money?
Oh, we can borrow
A
again.
SPOS?
We
is
can
there-
bond.
Didn't we use a SPOS for the jail? Could we not use a 2-year SPOS or something to fund part of this, is all I'm asking, instead of using 21 million out of the general fund.
Well, money is king, and when you're financially secure, are you gonna borrow money
But a year
and
ago,
pay for
a
a house
year ago, we
when
were
you can pay for
financially
the house with
secure.
cash?
But my point, my
think-
point is, a year ago, we
So I-
weren't financially secure, so we had to raise the millage rate.
So I
But
think
now, all
there's-
of a sudden,
No,
miraculously,
you don't
we're
understand.
$33 million
Listen to me.
secure.
Personnel can't be paid out of the general fund. It's an ongoing expense. It
yes,
reoccurs
we have
every year. The
$120
financial
million
policy,
budget to-
and we added 100 and something new personnel that year, and you couldn't take the money out of the general fund.
So I do think that there is some.
We ended up ending the year in a surplus after raising, even though, because you raised the millage rate before you had the audit, and then all of a sudden, our general fund was not at what we said it was.
So I think there's a little bit of a, I mean, we're talking about two different things. The general have
fund
reserve
balance,
fund.
The reserves.
We have reserve
We have a
funds.
budget, and then we have a reserves.
Based on the fiscal policy or the financial policy from 2017, 2019, 1 year of my children were born, we can't use that reserved money for regular recurring operating expenses. So in the 2026 budget the 2027 budget that we just approved, we pulled all of the capital expenses out of that because we can use reserve funds for capital expenses. And so, yes, I believe that you're correct. I believe at some point they talked about using the general fund. I don't know this for sure. So, but if I remember correctly,
It's right here. I have
at
a copy
one
of it.
point in time, they did discuss using reserve funds to supplement the budget.
Yes.
Prior to the
Well,
significant millage increase of 2025.
We didn't have to use the reserves to supplement the budget because they raised the millage rate.
Right, that's why
So
they had to
because
use the
the
millage
general-
rate, because on
but
that financial policy, they can't use the reserve funds for that.
But we were going to have to do it if we didn't raise the millage rate. So, and that was going to bring the reserve balance to zero, which my point is, we don't want to use up all of the reserve balance because we're going to have another scenario 1 year where something crazy is going to happen with the budget and we're not going to have enough money, so we're going to have to raise the millage rate again instead of using the reserve balance. That's the fear of most of the citizens here. We don't want to go through that again. We want to be smarter with the money, which I do believe we're making a surplus every year. If you start representing that and portraying that and showing that to all the people, then I think it will ease our mind a little bit. But usually we don't get clear numbers from how we're ending the year. My other question is, because like I said, I'm for the project, I just want to be careful how we're using the reserve balance, is what kind of construction committee structure do y'all have? Are you going to have citizens on it monitoring? Are you getting bids for all the things? Are you monitoring the cost for that?
What we do when we trade on a project like this, facilities is in charge of it, Hank Shirley. And then if a project manager needs to be elected on it, and it's all bid out, and we pre-qualify any bidders. We don't just let anyone bid. They have to have done this kind of work before. That splash part, I inherited it and had to finish it up at Between, and Walton County accepted the low bidder. No pre-qualifications. That's some of the shottiest work I've ever seen in my life. So we now pre-qualify every contractor on any of Walton County's jobs. And we will have exact general fund numbers when this comes up for a vote. The auditors are showing up next week for our fall audit, and I'm expecting some very good numbers again. Most of the departments held the line on their spending. I'm going to scold my sheriff. My sheriff spent too much, but anyway, tell him I said so. His department is growing. The county is growing. There are issues in certain places, and it costs money. A new patrol car today is half again what it was when I first come into office. Fire trucks, that ladder truck, $2 million ladder truck, it takes an awful lot of money.
I have another question about the jail, would the repurposing of the jail with this, I know we're planning to move a lot more people or a lot more departments over to this than we would in new construction, but is there still room for us to add more staff over here? Is there more room to expand, or are we kind of at capacity if we do this plan at the new jail, at the old
If you
jail?
go back, let's see. And Liz, maybe you can speak to this too, by taking out that center section here, that's removing the old housing unit. You are pretty well landlocked around back, and that's one of our issues with the other facilities that are over here as well. So everything that's usable is actually seen in the footprint here. And I think it would pretty much take up the available space that's still usable there.
But
So-
each department will have room to grow within their department.
There are additional offices that
that
are
was
built
the
into
question.
this.
Yeah.
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 So we do have, what, a 10-year window?
Yeah, it's a 10 to 15-year
At least.
program, so
At least.
all of those spaces are a good bit bigger than what they need today.
Okay, that answers my, because I
And
know.
some of what we could do too, as we go through this and we get some direction, is we could do some value engineering. We could work with Hank to figure out which portions of this he can do and won't have to be bid out. Other portions that we could possibly do is, we don't need the FF&E or the furniture for the office spaces that are not occupied. So those could be, walled in and everything, but then future additions of furniture for things like that.
White box at Nine Space. I would like to see, and forgive me if I should have an idea of this, but what the expense schedule would be for the renovation. So if we gave the go-ahead, I don't know, on month one, at what point would we have at what schedule will we have, what would the payment schedule be for that?
Yeah.
So that we could know at what juncture in the process versus, and then also what would the additional cost be? I know to phase it, it would be more expensive because we're going to have different mobilization fees and things like that, but what would the additional cost be to phase it over, I don't know, 3 years, 5 years, whatever, kind of some phasing options, how much more that would be to phase it over a period of time rather than doing it one project at the time. That way we allow the reserves to kind of recoup a little bit.
It would be the most cost-effective is to jump
Right.
on it and do it.
I understand that. I think I just said that.
And,
But I would like to
then-
know
I
what
can
the
answer
additional
your
cost would
first
be.
question about the payment schedule.
Right.
If we started today and built everything, is the first 6 to 8 months, you'll just be in design phase. And the design fees, you would pay approximately half of that estimated architecture and engineering number at the end of design. And then once you're under construction, you pay the other half because the architects and engineers oversee the project during construction. And then the contractor gets brought on board, typically on a project like this, you bring them on board early, but you pay them just a nominal fee during the design phase, and then they will start submitting pay applications after that. So I would say you're probably not gonna start paying for the construction until maybe 9 months in, 10 months in, when they actually break ground. And then this is probably a 14-month,
14 to 18.
14 to 18-month construction project. So at the end of that period of time, then you would pay the rest of it.
That's actually partly why we're having this discussion when it seems early. Because by the time you get into the design of this, you're already 9 months in, and 9 months into a 24-month window of when the judge may be assigned. Then you add in the construction phase, and we'd be lucky to get any of this done by the time they're really considering that. So it's an important question, and it does show some of that delay in any of the expenses that would be realized as part of this.
You have 3 more individuals at least here who have
Good,
a comment?
good.
Okay.
Yes, I looked over that budget from the Summers to the Enterprise Funds. After looking over the budget, I found out that we have room to do the following things. In Walton County, as of January 16, 2026, there were up to 50 people homeless, and we could place these people in from the Walton County Law Enforcement Center and give them so long to live there. And we could have state funded as well as federal funded programs working with them, so that they maybe have somewhere to live when they give out. We could also have a community center built there and have it open 24/7, specializing in counseling, giving out meals and medical centers each day, as well as having law enforcement officers working there, advising them of what not to do. Lastly, I would say you should be willing to take these following actions for the citizens of Walton County. Thank you.
Thank you.
So an alternative suggestion of more of a homeless and a service center. I think it's important to note that of the proposal for looking at the space that's needed for the services that are currently being provided, that the housing portion of this is inadequate. That's one of the reasons why the new jail was built, and that is proposed to be demolished. So it would be a pretty big ask to change over an office space and turn it into a housing complex, because the only portion of this that's being looked at being renovated is really the office spaces.
Thank you.
But
John, what started this ball rolling is possibly getting a new superior judge. Is that correct?
yes, and the judge is making us aware of that in their
Right,
court
right.
schedules and stuff.
And to accommodate that judge, you need to clear out a courtroom that's already available over at Hammond Road, but it's occupied by other departments. Is that correct?
Currently at the Hammond Drive complex, there is a third floor commission room it's currently used as a public meeting space. That is more than likely the most appropriate site at Hammond Drive. It's the office spaces that would be vacated by finance that would allow expansion of the district attorney as well as the judge's chambers.
Okay,
And then
but isn't that a separate issue? I'm just talking
No,
about
they
the
all
superior
they all
judge.
they all come together. When a superior court judge gets added, they also add an assistant district attorney, as well as public defenders.
All right.
So it's a multiple position being added, not just a judge.
Okay, I got you. So how much space do you need to take, how much space is being occupied by whatever you need to move out of Hammond? How much space would you need just for the judge and the
Essentially, the biggest area that we would need for the judge is that former commission room, as well as the area that the finance would vacate. Now, we haven't done a space analysis on Hammond Drive because the space analysis for this was about approximately, what, $50,000?
Yeah, but just
And we didn't
help me out.
change, and we didn't add and do any additional expenditure until we knew whether somebody would,
I got
if there
you.
would be support to move.
I've got a simple mind. I'm just doing it on the back of a napkin here. So how many square feet are occupied by those offices and how many square feet would you need to move those people out and put them somewhere else, just to do that?
We would have to look at that.
You have no idea?
No, what we haven't done is we haven't done the space analysis at
But
Hammond
I mean,
Drive.
how could we get this far along on this if we don't even know how much space we need for a judge? And am I also correct that we're not sure that we're getting a superior judge?
We won't know until
Yeah, we don't know.
Right,
Okay,
that's
thank
correct.
you,
We
thank you,
don't know.
thank you, that's good.
But we could-
So we don't know if we're gonna have a superior judge. We don't know how much space we actually need to house him in, the DA. But we're talking about spending $24 million or whatever it is, on this, the numbers keep changing, but we're going to be spending over 20 million on this and taking our reserves down. Is that correct? Have I got it right?
The space that is needed.
That's not all of it. These departments need more space.
Yeah, but
Forget Hammond Drive.
Well, that's not what
Forget.
started the ball rolling.
Human
That's why I
resources-
started with the ball rolling was because we are going to have a new superior judge.
If
And
you-
we don't
Oh,
know that.
no, that wasn't what started the ball rolling. We got an empty
He said it was.
facility.
He
Mr.
just
Sack,
said it was.
Mr. Sack, if you look at it simplistically that way and only look at the judge's needs, what you're saying is true, but it's not the full picture. If you're
Well,
not taking into account all of the different departments that have been identified and what we've discussed, then what you're saying is not true. So it's a hybrid, and no, it's not as simple as saying, if you don't get the judge or you don't do this. Yes, we've been notified that due to our growth, we will be getting a new judge. Can we tell you exactly when? I can't tell you what the Georgia State Legislature is going to do. The judge's space that's needed, and what we're doing is we're doing a comparative analysis. We know what space the judges have that are over there now that's working. So it's based on that. It's not just guessing and saying we don't even know anything.
But if we don't know if we're getting one or exactly when, I'm just wondering what other options did you consider? What's option 2? If you don't even know how many square feet, do you have any other facilities that could be used?
No, sir.
Well, how do you know if you don't know how much square feet?
We
you
have
need?
an entire list of all the facilities we have, and there's no vacancy anywhere. So I can answer that. No, we
All
don't
right.
have anywhere to move them.
Let me ask you a different question then. I keep hearing about how important it is to move the inmates out of the jail real quickly because there's this potential liability.
Those
And
that
you-
are waiting to go to
Right.
court, yes.
And you're saying that you can't predict. Well, can you tell me what historically it's run?
For the amount for the liability the medical insurance?
Not the insurance, but what catastrophes have we had in the last 10 years
We
that
can
has run
share,
up our
we can share,
medical-
we can share that.
Do you
We
have
can-
those numbers?
Yeah, there's part of the audit that's posted every single year, just like all the inmate medical is posted on there, as well as insurance costs.
All right.
So I can pull it from the audit and give it to you, but I don't have it memorized.
I can give you one example. About 2 years ago, a guy shot himself down at Hard Labor Creek
Yep.
and didn't kill himself, and it cost you and me about $450,000, didn't it? Is that the number?
Yes.
So
That was just
that's
one-
one.
I believe you're shy. It was $1,450,000.
I think we've had inmates that have had to have open heart surgery and other, like, major.
Cancer
medical-
treatment.
Well,
It's
those
all
are
on the
interesting
employee side.
stories, but I'd like to see some statistics.
It's
some
all in the
history.
audits every single year, and it's all included there.
But one thing, if we had a courtroom down there today, they could use it tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
And
And the district attorney's office is already busting at the seams. They've been asking for space for a minute.
All right, I'm
John, just-
done, but John, I wanted to thank you for getting this started tonight. This is really great. Thank you very much.
John, I got a question. This is a shared district between Newton County and Walton County, right?
It is.
What is Newton County's buy-in when it comes to additional judge space? What do they do?
Now, this is a judge for Walton
It's just
County,
Walton County
not a
only?
judge for Newton
So it'll be
County.
Walton County only, what you
So
saying?
actually, it would be a share, it would be on the same circuit, but they could only hear Walton County cases in Walton County. So having an extra having more courtroom space in Newton County doesn't do anything for Walton County.
Okay, just ask a question.
No, it's
I asked
an
that
important
question.
thing. Judge
I
Zahn,
asked that question earlier. That's a good question.
yeah, Judge Zahn kind of travels since she's the
She's the lead.
Chief Justice.
Right.
However, Foster, Morris, Randy, McGinley, everybody
the
are currently
first-
here. So the new judge,
So
the
it'd be
new
Walton County
judge
only.
would actually be here in Walton County only.
And the ADA
And that's part of,
ADA will be Walton
and
County
that's
as well?
part of what we're dealing with, trying to be proactive or wait until after we're, behind the 8 ball.
When we moved HR and bought the little blue house across from the National
Right.
Bank, that was strictly for the DA.
Correct.
He was busting at the seams, and that provided him the space
Okay,
that he needed. And now the others are,
growing up.
Two, or maybe 3 other factors, I'll throw this in, then throw it back to Ben, is that we're currently in the process, the commission asked us to work on with the economic development of surplusing and returning two different properties, one USDA building, the other the historic jail. Those will be coming back before the commission for consideration of sale, surplusing, and moving those back onto the tax rolls. And a vacation of the existing human resources building would also be anticipated, that would be surplused, and any surplus of that building could be potentially committed towards this project as well.
What about the Baker property? Where are we at on that? The Baker House?
What?
The Baker House on the hill.
There's currently
We're currently getting it in shape to lease it out.
Okay.
It's right in the middle of 260 acres that the county owns. Selling it is not
an option.
Yeah, but we have worked with economic development as well and look at providing that as a potential revenue source. Ben?
Okay. We've
got another question.
We got one more question.
Hey, this is Deborah Smith. This is mostly directed to John and to Liz. John, I know you said that property is kind of landlocked. When you start looking at that, if this project moves forward, and I'm in favor of it because I believe in using things that we have, will you look at going up in the future, past the 21 million renovation? I know that the K part, those were pods or part of the jail, those were probably designed to go up. I don't know, but if they weren't, is there a way that in the future could this be looked at as you're doing the renovation for possible just going up at that site when we need that additional space in the future, because we will need it? And I know someone asked a question about SPLOST. Could any of this be on a future SPLOST and help with some of this? Just a question.
SPLOST is approved by the voters, and we can definitely put it on the ballot, or the next chairman can. I won't be here when that comes back around.
Well, I'll try to answer your question about going up to a second story. The area over there, the K, is where the 2002 housing pods were, and that's where we're talking primarily about putting storage. So if we need to grow or add departments or increase personnel, that may not be the best part of the master plan to put a second floor on. It's gonna, either way, whether it's in the other section or that section, it's gonna require a whole different type of floor and roof structure, and obviously vertical circulation, elevators, stairs, that sort of thing. So it does make for an expensive project, but it's not to say it couldn't happen sometime in the future if they needed it.
Okay, we've been at it an hour or so. We got one more.
Is it on?
Oh.
I just wanted to, I'm Lori, I'm with the Board of Elections. This is Lisa, she's our Assistant Director. I don't know if a lot of you know, I know David knows, we are currently spread across 4 different buildings. We have.
I know it.
I know you know. We have all these machines, and now we have 7 employees, and we've had to build out cubicles in our workroom. Going back to the Hammond building, we use that workroom, the old commissioner workroom, as our poll worker training. We have anywhere from 130 to 160 poll workers that we have to train and keep in touch with, all year long. And yeah, and then the parking on top of that. We're currently in the DFAX, the old DFAX building on Spring Street, and during elections, we have anywhere from 30 to at least 50 cars, and there's no parking because we have to share the facility with EMS, which is super important, but it's a lot, and so we want this, and if anybody has any questions, I'll be glad to answer them. But
don't you have a storage problem also?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That's why they're
We
using
have-
different
We're spread
buildings.
across 4 buildings, and one of them is in the basement, on the first floor where facilities is. When we moved out of the Hammond building, we still had to keep that storage over there. Even though we had that new storage unit built behind where we are now, we still have that room that we have overflow in. So, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, let's call this meeting to an end, and we'll have a feeling we'll be hearing from Parks and Rec more and more. So thank all y'all for coming. Thank you for your questions, and entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
We really can't vote, but we're agreeing to adjourn.